A single, overlooked software bug in an Ohio control room on a sweltering August afternoon in 2003 silently initiated a catastrophic chain reaction that ultimately extinguished the lights for 50 million people across 8 U.S. states and parts of Canada, forever etching itself into the annals of engineering failures. This wasn't a natural disaster, nor an act of malice. It was the insidious unraveling of a vast, interconnected system, triggered by a minor flaw in the digital brain meant to safeguard it. The journey into darkness began discreetly at 2:02 p.m. Eastern Time, within the First Energy Control Center. A critical energy management system, or EMS, responsible for monitoring the sprawling network of transmission lines and power plants, suffered a software defect. This wasn't a sudden crash, it was a subtle corruption of data, a failure to update the system's operational status. The primary alarm system, designed to alert operators to impending problems, simply froze. It continued to show a green, normal status, even as the first signs of trouble began to ripple through the physical infrastructure. Think of it like a pilot in a cockpit, flying blind. All the gauges read, nominal, every warning light dark, while outside the aircraft, engines are beginning to sputter and wings ice over. The control room became a quiet chamber of ignorance, its human operators blissfully unaware that the digital sentinels had fallen silent. The system had effectively masked its own failing, denying critical information to the very people tasked with preventing a collapse. Just moments later, at 2:14 p.m., 3 high-voltage transmission lines in northern Ohio, already straining under the summer heat in heavy demand, tripped offline. These were not minor arteries, they were major conduits, vital for shuttling power across the region. Normally, such an event would trigger a flurry of alarms, sending operators scrambling to reroute power and stabilize the grid. But the silence persisted. The automated systems, without the human oversight of functional alarms, kept trying to compensate, pushing the remaining lines even harder. What happens when you continuously overload electrical circuits without relief? They trip, they buckle, and that's precisely what began to happen. The instability wasn't contained. The electrical grid is not a series of isolated pockets, but an intricate, interwoven tapestry of power lines and substations, where a disturbance in one thread quickly tugs at another. The system, designed for redundancy, began to shed its safety nets, one by one. Meanwhile, operators in neighboring states, seeing unusual power flows and voltage fluctuations, were struggling to make sense of the chaos. Information was scarce, communication fragmented. They were seeing symptoms but not the disease, like doctors observing a patient's failing organs without access to their medical history or vital signs. Was it a local fault? A regional problem? The lack of a clear, coherent picture prevented any coordinated, effective response. The pressure mounted relentlessly. As more lines tripped, the demand for power, especially from air conditioners battling the summer heat, remained insatiable. Generators, now facing extreme resistance and out-of-sync frequencies, fought a losing battle. The delicate balance between electricity generation and consumption, the very foundation of a stable power grid, began to unravel at an accelerating pace. Each failing line pushed the burden onto another, tightening the noose around the entire system. By 3:41 p.m., the cascading failure had reached a critical mass. The sheer volume of tripped transmission lines and failing generators meant that the remaining operational infrastructure simply could not cope. The system's frequency began to drop precipitously, a death knell for large-scale power generation. One by one, massive power plants, unable to maintain synchronized operation, automatically shut down to protect themselves from damage. It was an engineering nightmare unfolding in slow motion, yet its final, devastating manifestation was breathtakingly sudden. At 4:10 p.m., the lights blinked out in New York City. Then Toronto. Then Cleveland, Detroit, and vast swaths of the American Midwest and Northeast. 50 million people, caught off guard in offices, homes, and public transport, were plunged into an instant, unnerving darkness. The world's largest recorded power outage had begun. The initial shock quickly gave way to confusion and then, for many, a primal sense of fear. Traffic lights ceased to function, trapping commuters in gridlock. Subways ground to a halt, entombing thousands underground. Elevators became steel cages. Communication networks, dependent on electricity, began to fail as backup batteries ran down. The modern urban landscape, so reliant on an invisible flow of electrons, instantly reverted to a pre-industrial age. The investigation that followed was monumental, tracing the roots of the blackout back to that seemingly innocuous software bug and the subsequent human errors. It was revealed that the first Energy M system had not only failed to trigger alarms but had also been displaying erroneous data to operators for hours leading up to the collapse. The software itself was flawed, prone to freezing under specific data loads, a known issue that hadn't been fully addressed. But the story isn't just about a single line of bad code. It exposed deeper systemic vulnerabilities. A lack of clear protocols for inter-utility communication, insufficient training for operators to handle such complex, cascading failures, and an aging infrastructure that was struggling to keep pace with demand. The grid, a triumph of engineering, was also a victim of its own complexity and the human tendency to trust technology implicitly without fully understanding its limitations. The 2003 blackout served as a chilling reminder of the intricate dance between human ingenuity and technological fallibility. It taught us that even the smallest, most seemingly insignificant error, a line of code, a missed alarm, can, under the right confluence of circumstances, trigger an avalanche of consequences, bringing entire societies to a standstill. It wasn't just a power outage, it was a profound lesson in the fragile interdependencies of our modern world, and the unyielding importance of vigilance, redundancy, and a deep understanding of the very systems we build to empower us.